So what we're trying to tell you is that earlier this week, Florida Governor, a man called Ron DeSantis, signed a proclamation declaring someone called Emma Weyant the winner of a women's college swimming event, despite her loss to a transgender athlete. So she came second, but he said, no, because a transgender athlete won the swimming competition, you are going to get the first.
So Leah Thomas actually beat Weyant last Thursday by 1.75 seconds in the 500-yard competition, becoming the first transgender NCAA American champion in the division. Now, the governor of the state where this took place refuses to acknowledge Leah Thomas as the winner and says Emma Weyant had the fastest time of any woman in college athletics. So there is, as you can see from all this, a big row.
Joining us in the studio, boxing promoter Kellie Maloney, who has transitioned herself and is with us here to share her opinion. And the reason I love having you here, we've known each other for many, 25, 30 years or so. And I knew you before you were Kellie very well. And I made this mistake talking to your daughter one day, and I said, but he's got to do this. And I went like this. And you didn't make an issue, your daughter didn't make an issue out of it, and you understood. And she said, I call him all the time, and instead of her and whatever. And I thank you for the confusion. I think people are much more used to the idea now as well. But you understand, I think, the emotion on both sides of the argument with us.
I do, because I feel for 60 years of my life, I lived as a man. Most people know me as Frank Maloney, and I still get, like yesterday, I bumped into an old friend from Peckham, and all she referred to me was as Frank, and she kept going, I'm really sorry, and I went, it's not a problem. This is the first time you've met Kellie. So it is a matter, you know, I think some of us in the trans community cause our own argument with society. We have to accept we're not biological women, we're medically constructed women.
Which is the point, right?
Yes.
So we get to this swimming gala in America and this whole argument in sport in general. So what would you say, should transitioned women be allowed to compete with naturally born women?
I honestly don't know the answer to that. I'm not a professional in that subject. You read one science paper which says no, you read one science paper which says yes. What there's not been done is a complete, utter study of a trans athlete and a woman athlete. There's no real study to accept if there is a big difference. I work with a top sports scientologist who worked with me with Lennox Lewis. He says there is a difference. We and him disagree in a lot. I believe that everyone should have an opportunity to take part in the sport they choose. And let's be fair, sport is not a level playing field anyway. There's always cheating in sport.
Some factor, yeah.
You know, even in football.
Whether it's home or away, whether it's steroids.
Yes, well, this is the point that Sharon Davies has been making, the Olympic swimmer. She said that, you know, competing with men who've taken chemicals to become and transition into women, it's like competing with athletes who've been doping. They get a medical advantage.
No, I don't know if that's true or not, because it does affect your body. I can only talk of personal experience, you know, and obviously age also affects you. But you've got to remember, your body changes, your mental attitude has to change, and all that affects you. I mean, this woman in America, her time was not the best in the... You know, it didn't even break a record. It was... It's about the 10th or 12th best time in that race. And she, you know, the world record for that was set in 2017 by a genetic woman. It's never been beaten, broken. So she's like, I think she was about 5 or 6 seconds behind that, and there's 10 women in front of her. So she's not an elite athlete.
Kellie, what I think is interesting about this whole argument is that there are actually rules around this in the States, and they say that you have to compete, you're able to compete, as a trans athlete 3 years after you've undergone hormone treatment. But in this case, Leah hadn't completed the 3 years. She was 2.5 years. But the college let her do it anyway. So they're breaking their own rules, because people are afraid, aren't they, on this issue, to say what they really think.
You shouldn't be afraid. And, you know, I mean, the sports governing body should all get together and organise a proper testing series on trans women, on athletes, on everyone, because they just take the average man and use him, and they take the average woman. Well, they're not athletes.
What about Bruce Jenner's argument? Because, of course, he's an Olympian himself, but when he was a man, now Caitlin, he's saying these athletes should, of course, be entitled to transition, but why not wait until after your professional career before you transition? Why not compete as a man and then
Well,
transition
because
to being a
sometimes it's
woman?
very hard. You have to live. We live with very lot of emotional disturbance in our life. You know, as Frank Maloney, the boxing. I know if I had transitioned as Frank Maloney when I was at the height of my career, I would have been a much better boxing promoter than I was, because I wouldn't be hiding something. I wouldn't be fighting myself.
Yeah.
You know, emotionally, it's very disturbing. And you know, the swimmer had to come over all that emotion. Look at the fuss they made about the weightlifter. She came nowhere in the Olympics. No trans woman, other than, I think, a cyclist, has won a major competition, and obviously the swimmer. But they're not breaking world records yet.
They're not a threat.
We're not a threat, and that's it.
Yeah.
And we need to sit down and debate this. You know, the photographs they used were photoshopped maliciously, how they were done at the angle to show was wrong, and there were wrong photos. There were 2 photos put together.
Yeah.
Because you never get 4 people on a podium. You only get 3 people on a podium.
Well, it'll take better heads than ours to solve
But
it.
do you know what we should do? It should be one of those subjects that we sort of, you know, when you go to the pub, you don't talk about religion or politics.
Yeah.
We should drop talking about trans in sport for a little while until there's a clear definition from the science world, which is right or wrong.
Well,
Right, there you go.
as I say, I've known Kellie for many, many years, and last year in Belfast...
We bumped into each other.
For a year. So I'm filming in a prison, right? And meanwhile, she is on a tour from a ship, a cruise ship that is docked in Belfast Harbour. So she stands in front of me. There's people asking me for selfies and autographs or whatever it is, and she stands in front of me. And you know when you see someone completely out of context, and you think, she stood in front of me and she went, well, and I'm going, well, what? I'm sort of thinking, I just thought she was Mrs. Miggins from Wigan. I didn't know who she was.
I did have an Irish accent.
Oh gosh! And then he says to me, and we were standing there doing this. It just was so funny. And then I clocked on who you were, and
And I thought you'd been sent to prison for a term of...
no, you thought I was part of the tour. You got off the boat and
They
thought
just-
that, and
yeah,
then
they
you
just
go,
wheel out
you meet
Eamonn.
Eamonn Holmes and he'll tour us around the prison.
Lovely to meet you.
Kellie
Thanks
Maloney,
very
lovely
much
to see
indeed.
you again.
Thank you very much.